What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Primetime Sports Podcast, hosted by Joey McLary. So today, I'm joined by a very good friend of mine, Ben Risseeuw-Tipcke, having him back on the podcast for the third time. He was on here to talk March Madness. Great to have him back on today. We're going to be talking about the World Cup. The World Cup will begin today with Mexico and South Africa playing. Tomorrow, there'll be some more games as well. On Saturday, Ben will be going to the Haiti versus Scotland game at Boston Stadium, which is really exciting. Ben is a lifelong soccer fan, played soccer his whole life, and is a World Cup enthusiast. So I do not know too much about soccer, genuinely. So a lot of the insight I'm giving today are just predictions based on, just teams and who I think can make a run, but not based on any statistics or really too much knowledge of soccer. So luckily I am joined by a soccer wizard in Ben Risseeuw. So thank you, Ben, for joining me today. How are you doing today?
Doing great. How are you? Appreciate you having me on for the third time.
Yeah, third time's the charm. We already had two great episodes, and I'm sure this will be another great one. But all's well with me, and appreciate your time, my friend, and all your insight you're going to bring to this episode. Like I noted, I don't know too much about soccer, to be honest. I'll know some of the top players, like Mbappe and Ronaldo and Messi and a few other guys, Van Dijk and those guys, but I don't know too many of the, players on smaller teams that are getting overlooked, maybe like a smaller team like Ghana. I couldn't really tell you too much about a lot of these teams, but luckily we have you today to provide all that insight, so we're blessed with your presence here. I do want to start with my first question. This is just general about the World Cup. You're a lifelong soccer fan and have played your whole life and always loved following the World Cup. What's your favorite part of the World Cup? What do you think makes it the most special?
Yeah, I think, what makes it the most special is just, I was saying this on the walk over here, it's just the fact that it happens every 4 years. It's so special because 1 year, your team might be in it and they do well, and then they might not be in it for another 20 years after that. So you really just need to cherish the moments you get while your team's in it. It's also just super fun. It's the global game. It brings in people from all over the world, especially having it here in the U.S. You get to see, the Scottish fans are already starting to invade Boston, which is awesome. You've seen there's a big Cape Verdean population here in Boston. They have been so awesome just welcoming their team in. It's fun to see just all the different countries of the world come in, just really make their presence felt, and bring a little bit of culture to the U.S. It's something we need right now, and yeah, it's awesome, and I love it.
Absolutely, and you made a great point of how the game of soccer is global, which we were talking about the March Madness on the walk over and how great of a tournament that is, and that's really just an American tournament. At the end of the day, I'm sure there are people in Europe that follow it, but it's not as global. There's not as much demand. People don't really care as much, not as much buzz around March Madness globally. But when you look at the World Cup, there is, because it brings so many countries from so many different places all together, everybody tuned into the same game. And on Saturday, you'll be seeing two teams that aren't America. You'll be seeing Haiti and Scotland, but there's that same buzz where it's, hey, this is a World Cup game. This is big time. You know what I mean? So it's special. Each and every game is special because you only have, like you said, once every 4 years. And the opportunity to go to a game is very, very much limited. It's not easy with how many tickets they go on sale with, and then how expensive the resale market is. It's tough to get tickets to a game, and obviously, luckily, you will be going Saturday. So how excited are you to see that game Saturday night?
I'm so excited. It's always been my dream to go to a World Cup match. Obviously, I would love if it was the U.S. game, but I will take literally anything I can possibly get. It's going to be so fun. I'm so excited. I like a lot of the Scotland guys that play on former guys used to play on my favorite Manchester United team, so that's okay. But Scotland's awesome. Haiti's fun. They're a scrappy team from up here in North America, and I'm excited for it. My wife and I are making plans for the 2030 World Cup in Spain and Morocco, so I know I'll be going again, but I'm so excited to go to my first game this year.
Dude, I'm stoked for you, truly, and I know how much, obviously, the World Cup means to you. So to be able to go to a game, doesn't matter the matchup, is very special. That's a lifelong memory that you and obviously your wife will have together, which is great. So wishing you the best time at that game Saturday. Hopefully nice weather as well. It doesn't seem like, when I looked at the forecast, I don't think it's going to rain Saturday. I'd hope not, but either way, you'll be actually
I'll be in a suite, so
I
think I get
you'll be good.
I'll be fine.
You'll be good, actually. But I think, if there's no rain, probably more opportunities for more goals maybe.
Oh, for sure.
Which is special. And I think I was telling somebody I work with at Fenway that it doesn't matter who's playing. You really do just want to see goals because how exciting and electric soccer is, because goals really are. It's not like basketball where there's a bucket and a three-pointer and a layup every other few plays. Soccer, it's so sudden when you score a goal, which makes it special. So hopefully it's a high-scoring 5-3 game. I think
that'd be
awesome.
fun. I will say, though, a 0-0 game is, I say this as a soccer guy, a 0-0 game can also be one of the best games you've ever seen. But that's very niche for me. I remember the 2022 World Cup, USA and England had a great game that ended 0-0. It was one of the best games I've seen. But high scoring always makes it a bit more fun and entertaining too.
100%.
Once the game opens up. So.
And you obviously know the game of soccer at a high level, so you would appreciate those defensive games more than most. Like, I know when I look at baseball, I love the 2-to-1 ball games where it's great pitching, a pitching duel each way where both pitchers are locked in, not many walks. Hits are hard to come by, and then when you get a big hit, it makes that opportunity bigger and more special. And obviously, we'll see how Saturday goes, but regardless,
it's going to be fun.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and like I said, it's tough to get tickets to these games, so to have the opportunity to go is very special. So hopefully you and your wife have a great time, and now we will transition to my next question, and we'll start looking at the bracket and basically break down your predictions on each group and who you think is going to win which. We'll start out, though, with what matchup are you looking forward to most? Whether it's a matchup that you could see in the finals or a matchup that obviously is going to happen in group play. Maybe we'll start with that. Group play probably makes most sense.
Yeah. Well, to kind of starting off the tournament with Mexico and South Africa, it's kind of I think a lot of people would throw that game away. But one, it's the first game of the tournament, which is going to be awesome. Two, it's a rematch of the 2010 opening game in South Africa, where South Africa and Mexico, that game was super fun. So definitely just looking forward to kind of bringing it back. But looking at some specific games, I think Brazil-Morocco is going to be a great game. I think Brazil is a solid squad that does age a little bit, and Morocco is young. They're the best team in Africa, along with Senegal, and I think Morocco just has a lot of really strong players. I think they're going to do really well. All of Group I think it's going to be fun. That's France, Norway, Senegal, and Iraq. France is one of the best teams, if not the best team in the world. Norway, it has a lot of goals with Erling Haaland and Martin Odegaard. I think they're going to be a team that people are maybe not sleeping on, but they're not going to fully expect it. And then Senegal, like I said, they're the second best, tied for the best team in Africa, and I think they play a really fun style of African football that not a lot of other teams can play or manage. It's a lot of positionless game, and I think that's going to be that entire group is going to be fun. And then also England, Croatia. I'm rooting hard for Croatia, and Bosnia and Herzegovina is the only former Yugoslavian teams in the tournament this year, and Croatia and England is a rematch of the semifinal game back in 2018 where Croatia won. Developed a little bit of a rivalry between them since then, so I think it's also just going to be a great game. That one's going to be kicking off Group L. So great games across the board, but those are definitely the ones I'm looking forward to most.
Well, thank you for that, all that great insight. You broke down obviously a lot of games, and that's what's going to make the part of the episode when we break down each group and who you have falling where, 1 through 4 is, first and second place finishes that will advance, and obviously some of the third place finishes. And that's going to make that segment on this podcast so special because obviously all the insight that you have, you just broke down 3 or 4 games right there that a lot of people might be overlooking, but they might end up being, the best games of the tournament. And obviously with it being as many groups as there are, A through L, there's a lot of opportunities for teams to surprise and obviously create some buzz. So that is the beauty of this tournament, how many teams that are involved and how global it is. Which country do you think is facing the most pressure to succeed?
Yeah, I think there's 5. I think the most obvious ones are USA, Canada, Mexico, the 3 hosts. I think if there is a bad showing for those 3, I think it's gonna look bad on you either way as host. There's only been 2 times, South Africa and Qatar, that the host is not qualified for the knockout rounds, and I think the U.S. is going to be fine. I think Mexico is going to be fine. I think Canada might struggle, so they might be third on that list. And then also Argentina and Portugal, I think, have a lot of pressure. Argentina, we all thought after their win last year is going to be Messi's final World Cup. He's obviously back for another one. There's a lot of pressure on them just to win that. That's kind of how the 2022 edition went. Everyone was trying to win for Messi. And I think that Portugal is kind of going to use the same blueprint. Everyone's going to try to win for Ronaldo. And then also one of their teammates died last summer, Diogo Jota, and I think it's going to have the memory of him and the pressure of wanting to get a World Cup for Ronaldo, I think, might be weighing a bit heavy on them. So I think those 5 are facing the most pressure, with Argentina and Portugal definitely, I think, having the most.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of pressure on the host countries, like you said, to at least advance at the end of the day. You want to obviously get to the knockout stage.
You want to have a good showing. And obviously there's been some issues with getting into the U.S. for some teams. So I think the U.S. is already behind the 8 ball a little bit. So they really need to have a good showing, kind of put some of that stuff behind them. I think Mexico is going to do fine. And then, Canada really needs to show out because I don't think they have as strong of a squad as they have in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely see how things work out. They're obviously in Group B, Canada, so see how they fare against some of those teams in that pool there. And I do want to point out, I wish I mentioned this at the beginning, but Ben does have his own blog online, his own sports blog, where he basically breaks down things from college sports, which he did a lot of March Madness coverage, and now he's doing a lot of World Cup coverage on there. So definitely check it out. I'll definitely put a link on YouTube, Spotify, and then when I reshare this on Instagram as well, like I did in the past, I'll put a link to Ben's Sports Hub, which it's on Substack, also on blogspot.com. Definitely go and take a look. He basically broke down each group. Basically, you'll have some stats and insight on where teams rank. So, for example, in Group F, Japan, he has a breakdown of them and where their team ranks in the FIFA rankings. They're currently 18th, and they qualified as an AFC group winner. There's a team preview for each team, which is awesome. Ben gives a breakdown of his best games, most underrated games, a dark horse in each group, a letdown team in each group, and then he'll break down teams 1 through 4 of how he thinks the results are going to go in each of those individual groups. So it's great to have, obviously, all that insight. So definitely go check that out. Ben's Sports Hub, which obviously you did a lot of March Madness coverage, and now doing a lot of FIFA coverage. I'm sure you're enjoying that, it seems like.
It's been a blast, yeah. I've also gotten to know a little bit more about the teams. So the World Cup, it's been 32 teams in the past. Now we expanded to 48. So getting to know some of the teams like the Democratic Republic of Congo, New Zealand a little bit more. It's been fun to kind of just check some of these other teams out and welcome them into the World Cup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a special thing too. Mm-hmm. Like you noted already, it's once every 4 years. So if you miss it, you have to wait another 4 years. So basically 8 years, and then if you miss it again, it's another 4, and you miss it 12 years out. It's just keeps going down the line. That's why it's so special, the World Cup tournament. Once you make it, obviously you have a lot to look forward to, and it's just special just to make it on its own. So I do want to ask you another question about individual countries heading in to the World Cup, and then we'll basically break down each group. But which country do you think is the most underrated heading into the tournament? Who's getting overlooked that you think could make a run?
I think it's going to be Turkey and Norway. I think Turkey has a really good young squad. They had a very difficult qualifying group as well. Let me jump back over there. They had a very hard group to qualify out of. They were with Spain, who's arguably the best team one of the best teams in the world as well. My pick to win the whole thing. A little bit of a preview of that. And the fact that they were able to get second only by a couple of points, and then they won their playoff games pretty handily. I think Turkey is going to give the U.S. trouble. I do think they're going to get second in the group, but I think they're going to do really well. And then Norway as well. I think Norway, they haven't made it to the World Cup in a while, but they're darn good. And I believe they had a goal difference of plus 32 in qualifying. And if Erling Haaland gets hot, there's nothing you can do to stop arguably the best striker in the world. So I think they are going to be those two teams are going to be really solid, and we're going to need to watch out for them. And if you overlook them, then you're going to be on the wrong side of the game.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, and that's obviously a Norway team that you're high on, so a lot of people might be overlooking them. They could potentially make a run. And I think with a lot of these rosters, like I already noted, I don't know too many of these players, to be honest, and that's why obviously having you today with all your expertise is important. But I do know every year in the World Cup, there's a team that makes a run that nobody's expecting them to make a run, and then there's a new star, a player that ends up being, that guy that people, end up talking about years down the line. Like you look at France when Mbappe was making his first World Cup, which he was already a highly regarded player, but he played very well in that, and that got him to be, a more popular player, obviously not just in France, but around the world. And I'm sure there'll be other guys that are young and maybe even some veterans that this might be their last go-around at a World Cup that stand out and make a run and make a name for themselves. Which group do you think overall is the most difficult? And then which would you say on the other end is the easiest in your opinion?
Yeah, I would say the hardest group is going to be Group I with France, Norway, Senegal, and Iraq. I don't think Iraq's going to do too much, but I think France, Norway, and Senegal are all going to be beating each other up. I do think France will come on top of that one. But, like I've said, if Erling Haaland gets hot and he starts scoring goals, it's really anybody's group. I think that's going to be a tough one. That's my group of death. And then the two easiest ones I have are Group E, which is Germany, Ivory Coast, Ecuador, and Curacao. I think Germany's going to coast through that. I think Ecuador and Ivory Coast will be jostling for second there. And then G, we have Belgium, Iran, New Zealand, and Egypt. I think Belgium and Iran are going to kind of cruise through that one and be just fine. So those are probably my two easiest groups.
And then, are there any teams that missed out on the tournament that you thought, maybe could have made a run? Like Ireland, obviously, they were close. They made obviously a run and trying to be a qualifying team. They ended up missing out. Were they teams that you wish made it in that didn't?
The main one is Italy, but they also don't deserve to be in. They've missed the last two of them. And I think they're ranked in the top 10 right now in the FIFA rankings, which are kind of a joke to begin with. But, they haven't made the last two World Cups, and it's honestly pretty embarrassing for them. After winning it in 2006, I think, they really haven't done anything since then. So they need to get their stuff together to get back. Because, you can't beat some of these smaller countries, then what are you doing? So Italy's the only one, but at the same time, they also don't deserve it. So.
Yeah, especially if you have the opportunity. And if you're ranked in the top 10, which I know you said the rankings can be a little bit crazy with the way they do them, and a little bit wild at times. But if you're ranked in the top 10, you don't make it, that is disappointing. But are there any specific players that you're looking forward to seeing play? A guy that you think could really stand out, that could break out and be, make a bigger name for themselves?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's two. Arda Güler on Turkey. He's a young guy actually, there's three. He's young. He's playing for Real Madrid. He's just doing fantastic things there. I think he's going to be really, really good. Endrick on Brazil. I think he's 19. Is on Real, or I think he might be younger than that. He's on Real Madrid. He just got loaned out somewhere as well. I think this could be a big tournament for him. And a little bit of a homer pick here. Esimir Baraktarevic. He plays for Bosnia and Herzegovina. He was born in my home state in Appleton, Wisconsin. His family fled Bosnia during the Yugoslavian War and the breakup of Yugoslavia, and so he's a guy that I'm really rooting for. He had the game-winning penalty over Italy to make it to the World Cup to advance for Bosnia, and I'm really looking forward to watching them play and watching him specifically because I think he's a baller. And he's from Wisconsin, so he's got to be a cool guy.
That's really cool. He's playing for Bosnia, right? You said?
Yep.
So obviously that's a team that you'll be looking forward to watching. I know that was a team that you said might be getting overlooked a little bit.
I think so, too. Yeah, they're going to be good.
So it should be cool, though. That's awesome, though. Milwaukee, is he?
Appleton, Wisconsin.
Appleton, gotcha. So, I see a Milwaukee article right there.
Yep,
He's an Appleton native. Okay, got you.
It's probably an hour away from Milwaukee.
That's cool, though.
Yeah. No, the state of Wisconsin's proud, so we're excited to watch him play.
So you have another group to obviously pay attention to, which I know obviously you'll be watching probably every single game that's being played.
I plan on missing none of the games.
I was saying, you're not going to miss any, but I know obviously with the few groups you already mentioned that you said were going to be the toughest, those would probably be the ones I'm sure will be locked into most. But obviously it's nice to have in Group B a team that you can root for there, which is great. And when the World Cup obviously does begin, it'll begin today. I think it's at 3 p.m.
Yep.
Correct, Eastern time. You'll have obviously, like we said, South Africa and Mexico facing off. When it does begin, how do you plan on following all these games? It's going to be tough. I mean, you're going to try to do it, but how do you plan on following all of them and obviously covering them on your blog?
What's nice about the World Cup, like when you look at March Madness, how you have like 4 games going on at the same time, the way that FIFA kind of laid them out is they're rarely going to be overlapping with each other. So like the first game today is at 3, the second one's at 10. And then usually it's like 12, 3, 6. And I don't know, 9 maybe. And what's nice, I mean, the games are only 90 minutes long, so it's really not gonna be. I'm not too worried about following them. It'll be writing about them. I'm gonna have to like pick and choose my battles on how I update the groups, but I think it's gonna be a good time. There's this job, I'm very content in my job. There's this job that Fox Sports was putting out. It was like $50,000 to watch every single World Cup game. Like, I should have applied for that. I would have done it.
You're doing it for free.
I'm doing it for free, yeah. But no, I try to, there's no shot I'm missing a game unless I fall asleep. There's only one I'm worried about. It's at midnight on Saturday on the way home after the Scotland-Haiti game, but I don't care. I'm staying up and watching it.
You'll have to. Especially it'll be a long day of soccer, but you do love it.
That's the best days.
You do love it. Obviously, being at Boston Stadium for this game is going to be special. I know we already talked about it at the beginning, but what do you think makes the game of soccer itself? I know you said the World Cup makes it special because it's global. What makes the game of soccer so special? I think it's, in my opinion, like I already mentioned, it's the sudden goals. Every goal matters so much more. It's not like a run in baseball, which, they can be hard to come by at times, but most baseball games, your team is scoring 4 or 5 runs on average, each team, individually. What makes that game of soccer so special? Which obviously every single game you're so locked into because of how special it is. What do you think makes the game itself so special?
That's a tough one because for me it's just I've grown up playing. I've played it my entire life. I've watched it my whole life. I think it's so special to me now because I'm able to see just like the entire game develop, and that's just so it's fun to watch. And it's kind of like one of those fun moments where like I know what I'm looking for. As like a player, as a former player, and as just like a fan, like I can see the certain things develop. And outside of that, it's just like the passion from the fans. Like it's a lot of these teams. Like even if you're like Curacao, I don't know if they're gonna win a game, but their fans are just so proud of them for being there. And those players just play with so much passion, and there's just so much. I don't know. There's just so much. They're not. I don't know if pressure is the right word, but they just feel like so much passion for their country, and they're making everybody proud. And it's just such a cool thing, and that just makes the game so special. On top of that, I don't know. It's one of those games that just. You're obviously at the World Cup, everyone's playing for the same country, but you look at some of the club teams. You have guys from all over the entire world that are playing together, and every single game just unites the world, and I think it's so cool. And it truly is the most global sport and, obviously the best sport out there. So
I think the best word to use is cohesion. There's obviously a lot of teams that, like you said, teams that are playing for club teams that are obviously playing maybe in Spain or Portugal, whatever it may be. But then obviously when you come back and you're playing for your country, it makes it even more special. Obviously the Premier League is a top tier league, and everybody looks forward to watching those games. And you have guys that are playing there that are from all over the world. Now they're going back to play for their roots in their home country, which makes it thrilling. It's like the Olympics.
And absolutely.
Obviously with the World Cup only being once every 4 years, it's similar to the Olympics in that regard, where everything just feels so much more important because it's not an every year thing. It's not the World Series, the Super Bowl, or March Madness, where every year it's new. It's not, obviously. In this case, it's once every 4 years. So appreciate your insight on that. And now we'll obviously jump over. We'll talk about the groups. I'll let you break it down any way you'd like, whether you want to go group by group and go, who you have 1 through 4. If you want to give some thoughts on some dark horse teams, which I know you mentioned obviously in all your blog posts, some letdown teams, the best games, however you want to break it down, I'll let you do it. We can go group by group, whatever it may be, whatever's best in your opinion.
Yeah, we'll go group by group. We'll start off with A. Group A is, where'd it go? Is Mexico, South Africa, Korea Republic, and Czechia. I think this group is going to be fairly chalk. I think Mexico is going to win it handily. I have them getting 7 out of the 9 possible points. And then I vary between Korea Republic and Czechia. I do think that the Czechs are a good team, and I'm not confident how well the Koreans are going to do. But in my final rankings, I do have Korea Republic finishing on 5 and Czechia finishing on 4. Czechia will qualify as a top 3rd place finisher. My dark horse in that group is Czechia. I think they have this guy, Patrick Schick, who can just score a ton of goals. I think he's going to be good. Korea, I'm a little bit worried about. They haven't had a string of great results recently. They're a good team, maybe not great. I'm concerned if they do advance onto the knockout stage. I don't think they'll go very far. But yeah, my final is going to be Mexico, Korea, Czechia, and then South Africa, unfortunately, is probably going to finish on 0 points.
Mm-hmm. And how much of an advantage is it for, obviously, Mexico being a host team? Obviously, when you're playing on your home soil, I'm sure it's a big-time advantage.
Oh, yeah, it's a huge advantage. Especially this first game is at the Estadio Azteca. It's like Mexico Stadium, and it is one of the hardest places to play. It's at elevation. I dream of going to a game there one day in Mexico City. It would be so fun, but Mexico absolutely has an advantage. Of the 3 host countries, I think Mexico's home soil and home stadium advantage is the greatest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And obviously now, with it being game 1 starting today,
it's
going to be an electric environment there. So.
It's going to be so fun. The Mexicans know how to celebrate, and they're going to have a good time.
I'm sure. That'll be an interesting pool, I feel like, that group there, which I know Korea, I do like K-pop a lot. So I'm rooting for K-pop, obviously, and Korea to make a run because of K-pop. I'm always a fan of K-pop, and the last probably 4 or 5 years been a fan because of my siblings, and so I'm rooting for Korea to do well. I'll give my thoughts on each group. Like I've already mentioned, do not as much insight as you do, so some of these might be far off, and I'm just basically doing what some people do when they fill in a March Madness bracket, and they just throw random teams down here and there, and then sometimes those end up being the best
those
brackets.
Always are the best ones.
Sometimes they do, so we'll see how it works out. But I got Korea Republic, Mexico, Czechia, South Africa, 1 through 4. See how things work out. Don't have too much insight, I'll be honest. But I do like, obviously, with your breakdown on your blog, you gave insight, like I said, of where they rank in the FIFA rankings, and then you gave the team previews. So you could look at how each team has played as of late. You gave insight to that. South Korea, you mentioned, has struggled a little bit as of late. Would you say that's concerning heading into the tournament? Now that it's, obviously all these games matter a lot more than the friendlies do that they're playing beforehand. How concerning is it for a team like South Korea that's struggling heading into these games?
Yeah, I kind of go back and forth on how much it's actually going to matter. It's not like the national tournament here in the U.S. with like basketball or football, where like, if you're coming in losing games, you're probably going to keep on losing games. They haven't had. So the reason I'm concerned is they beat El Salvador and Trinidad and Tobago pretty handily, but then they took rough losses to Austria and Ivory Coast, 2 teams that qualified for the World Cup. So I more look at the fact that they are not necessarily beating teams that qualified. They beat Ghana. I think Ghana's pretty bad. But they're not really beating teams that qualified for the World Cup. And I think that is going to be a concern going in. You want to be beating the teams that qualified, not the ones that didn't, So I think that's where my biggest issue with them lies. But They always get together. They are a very solid team. They know what they're doing. So if they don't do well, I wouldn't be shocked. But I also wouldn't be shocked if they did do well. They're kind of a toss-up in my mind.
Mm-hmm. And for K-pop's sake, like I said, I would root for them. So that's why I have them in first. Obviously,
that's valid.
Group. And we'll see how things go. But I do appreciate that insight. And like you mentioned, they did beat some teams, Ghana, but it was only 1-0. So it was a close game that it probably should have been for.
And Ghana's really bad this year, so that's
exactly.
you want to be beating them. But at the same time, the other thing you have to look at with these games leading up to the World Cup, you don't necessarily have your entire World Cup squad. And if you do, you are absolutely not playing them for a full 90 minutes because you don't want them to get hurt in a throwaway match. So that's why it's kind of up and down. But they have wins. If you haven't won a game in a while, that's where you get concerned. But we'll see.
Mm-hmm. And
we'll see tonight.
Absolutely will. We will see. What are the value, in your opinion, what's the value of the friendlies, obviously? I know, like you said, sometimes you don't have your full squad because guys will be playing club games elsewhere around the world. They might not be there. But, what do you think is the best advantage to that? Just getting some cohesion and chemistry among your players and just kind of working together?
Yeah, you're getting to play with each other. A lot of the times it's going to be a different system that you played in with your club team as well. So kind of getting used to that. You're also like some of these younger guys. Like there are obviously people that are like locks each time for their World Cup squad, but you also got to figure out who are some of these younger guys that need to make the team. One of the things that the U.S. men's coach, Mauricio said, and like other players agreed with him, after the World Cup squad was out and decided, the next two friendlies, the game just opened up a lot more for the U.S. They looked a lot cleaner. It looked like they were having more fun than before, and I think that, and it's like the two pre-match, like World Cup pre-match teams, I think that kind of shows that once you make the team, the pressure is obviously still on to perform at the World Cup, but it's off to make the team. And I think that kind of shows a little bit more. So with that, using my own logic there, after a couple bad losses South Korea took, beating Trinidad and Tobago pretty handily, and then El Salvador pretty handily, or just 1-0, but a decent win over them. Taking the same logic there, obviously they started to play and like open up a little bit more. So maybe that is a good sign heading in. Mm-hmm. I just didn't think about it like that until just now. So,
well, it's a great point that you made there. Obviously, is guys do have the pressure of trying to make the team, and that's a lifelong goal for a lot of these guys is making that team. Probably their lifelong goal is to bring home a World Cup or at least compete, and maybe have a big time goal to bring back memories of a lifetime for a lot of these countries, especially like you already mentioned. Some of these countries are really just happy to make it in. Like Curacao, if they have a big time goal, that's going to be kids that are playing soccer. They're going to think of that goal forever. Even if they don't make a run, even if they don't make it out of the group stage, they might be looking at that goal. There might be a 5-year-old, 8-year-old kid watching saying, "Hey, I want to be that player that just scored that goal one day. That can bring that buzz and that energy to my home country." So we'll see. Appreciate all the insight there on Group A. Anything else you want to mention about Group A before we dive over to Group B?
No, let's go into Group B.
Sounds good. All right, dive into B.
Group B. I think this one is going to be no World Cup group is ever a walk in the park, but I do think Switzerland is going to kind of coast through this one. They're a very, very, very good team. I think they are just built better and coached better and just a stronger team than Bosnia, Canada, and Qatar. I see them getting all 9 points and being just fine. I think Bosnia and Canada are going to tie on 4 points. I think they're going to draw with each other and then each beat Qatar. I do think Bosnia is going to be able to score a few more goals, so I have them going through over Canada. Canada will qualify as a third-place team. I also have them as my letdown team. I don't think they've been doing very good recently. And I think one of the big things that I've noted, they are a CONCACAF team, so they're in North America. I've seen them play the U.S. a ton. They are a team that kind of burst onto the scene a while ago, and then they got figured out. And now they kind of gotten figured out. I mean, they tied Ireland, who didn't qualify. They beat Uzbekistan, who's in the World Cup but not great. Tied Tunisia, tied Iceland, beat Guatemala. It's not that great of a win. They don't have the greatest results for a team with as high of expectations as they do. I think they're going to struggle. I think Bosnia is going to be good. I think they have very dynamic wingers on the outside. Then they also have a forward. His name is Edin Dzeko, who is just one of the best. He's one of the best strikers in the Balkan area. I think they're going to be great. I think it's going to be Switzerland, Bosnia, Canada, and Qatar. Qatar's been a fun experiment with them getting the World Cup last year, not winning a single game. Qualifying again this year, they're still not going to win a single game. So I don't know. They're not that good of a squad, but those are my four.
And we'll see how it works out there. I know you already mentioned the Canada being obviously in the CONCACAF and playing in the U.S., you've seen them play and you can see their style. I see a note, obviously, in your team preview for Group B here for Canada. You mentioned the red cards being an issue. They're being shown in 3 of the last 5 games. How important is it for them and then obviously every team in this tournament to not have those red cards? Obviously, it's a big-time advantage for the team they're playing against.
Yeah, I mean, you never want to be down a guy, and then that guy also misses the next game. They cleaned it up a little bit since then. I wrote this. I must have wrote this at the end of April. Now they've been good. Their last 3 games haven't gotten any, but I mean, a string of red cards is never you want to be seeing. Just shows a lack of discipline. Team players aren't doing what they need to do out there, and it hurts them going forward. So definitely, obviously not something you want in the game, but also just going to plague you in the future. Yeah,
team discipline is definitely important. And I do think I probably should have done this for Group A as well. When we give the countries, I'll give a breakdown of how they qualified. I think that'd be cool. So Group A, I'll run down really quick. Mexico, you noted, auto-qualified as a host, ranked 15th in the FIFA rankings. South Africa qualified as a CIF group winner. They were ranked 60th in the FIFA rankings. Korea Republic qualified as AFC group winner, ranked 25th in the FIFA rankings. Then you got Czechia, who qualified through the UEFA playoff. They're ranked 41st in FIFA rankings. Now in Group B, you got Canada, who auto-qualified as host. They're 30th in FIFA rankings. Bosnia qualified through the UEFA playoff. They're 65th in the rankings. Qatar is the AFC group winner. They are ranked 55th. And then you have Switzerland, who qualified as the UEFA group winner, and they are ranked 19th. I think those breakdowns are great. I love that you do include that in there because I think people probably wonder, how did this team get in? And not even a small country like Curacao, how did they get in? I think it's cool you note all of those in there. For my breakdown, I have Switzerland, Canada. I did switch. I got Bosnia now in 3rd. I didn't know they had a Wisconsin native, so I'll be making that transition there and putting them in 3rd. And then I got Qatar in 4th there to close out Group B. Anything else you want to mention there in Group B before we move on to Group C?
Nope, we'll go on to Group C.
Let's do it.
All right, so I can run through how they all qualified. We have Brazil. They were one of the top CONMEBOL finishers. They're ranked 6th in the FIFA rankings. Morocco qualified as a CAF group winner. They are 8th in FIFA. Haiti was a CONCACAF group winner. They're ranked 83rd in the FIFA rankings. And Scotland was a UEFA group winner. They are 43rd right now. I think this group is very top heavy. I think Morocco and Brazil are extremely good sides, and I think it's going to come down to goal difference on who advances out of them. Scotland and Haiti, I struggle. Maybe one of them gets into 3rd place if they're able to, some other results go their way, but I really think that the stars of the show are going to be Brazil and Morocco. Morocco, like I said, one of the best African teams. They're great. Brazil's always fantastic. Yeah, it's going to be the goal difference. I think that comes down to Scotland and Haiti. If they're able to recoup some of the goals that they give up against Brazil and Morocco, I think they might be able to qualify with a win. But I really think that this is going to be a Morocco-Brazil group. My letdown team in this group is Brazil. I noted this in my blog. I have a bad feeling about the Brazil team. I don't know why. I haven't been able to figure it out. I think they're aging, which is is going to not help them. I don't see it happening, but I just feel like what everyone knows is the 2018 Germany situation where Germany was on top of the world after winning the 2014 World Cup, and then they didn't even make it out of their group in the 2018 edition. So I could maybe see that happening, but I don't know. I feel weird about Brazil, but I do think they're going to be fine in advance.
And obviously, too, you never know how teams will show up. I think that's obviously the beauty of this tournament is everything is so sudden. There's only 3 games, and then obviously after that, you could be a 3rd place finish. You might also not be.
Yep.
So some of these teams, some of these guys that are playing, like you said, an older team, this is probably their last run. These last 3 games potentially their last time playing and representing their country. So that's what makes this tournament so special. And obviously the Morocco team, you obviously are very high on. They're a very good team, probably the best in Africa, you would say, right?
Yeah.
What would you say makes that team different? Is it their ability to score, athletes-wise, good runners, whatever it may be, guys that are just quick, a good goaltender? What would you say?
Yeah, they got and Yassine Bono, he's a great goalie. They have Achraf Hakimi, he's awesome. And I think one of the biggest things that kind of separates them from the rest of the African teams are they don't play. African football is it's like positionless. It's kind of free-flowing. Everyone's running all over the field. It's great and it's fun and it's chaotic. It doesn't always translate onto the world stage as much as it does well in Africa. And Morocco doesn't necessarily play that same way. A lot of their guys were not born and raised in Morocco. They were kind of raised in other parts of the world, then go home to represent Morocco. So they were able to learn different styles of football, so I think they play a little bit more of a European-based model, which I think does help them in the world tournaments compared to some of the other African teams. But I also just think that they're just really good. On top, they also have like just better players than a lot of the other teams. So I think that they're also very tall. Is what I've noticed. Like watching their games, so I think that's going to help them out a lot.
Mm-hmm. And they've obviously put together a couple like big time win streaks. You mentioned that obviously in your team preview of theirs. They've won 12 games in a row at one point and 11 games in a row at one point. They've only lost 4 games since June of 2023. So
they don't
that's
lose
3
games.
years.
Yeah.
3 years worth, and they've only lost 4 games. So obviously they are going to be the team to beat, you mentioned, in your opinion, in Group C. So it'll be interesting to see how they play out. And then what was your order? I think you said Brazil probably.
Brazil, Morocco. I think they're going to be tied on points with goal difference being the tiebreaker. Then Scotland and Haiti.
Okay, gotcha. And then what would it take for a team like Scotland? Obviously, I know you have them right now. It looks like you have them as a team that advances as a third place finisher. What do you think would put them over the top? I know when you're third place finisher, you're kind of right on the border, and this is a kind of a new knockout kind of round the way they're doing it this year. So it's a little different than they've done it in the past. But what do you think is going to help them get over the top and be a third place finisher there for Scotland?
I think what's going to help them most is, because I don't believe that they are going to beat Brazil or Morocco. They need to keep those games at 1-0. 1 or 2 goals each. They can't let their goal difference get too far in the negative. And then when they play Haiti, because I do think they're going to beat Haiti, I think they need to beat the crap out of them. I think, unfortunately in these, it's not necessarily the most sportsmanlike thing to do, but if you want to advance in a tournament like this, you need to have a good goal difference. And if they go up 2-3-0, they can't take their foot off the gas, and then they get blown out against Brazil and Morocco, they're not going through. So I really do think that they need to do well in their game against Haiti and score a lot of goals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely obviously a difference maker.
Mm-hmm.
Now each goal does matter that much more as well, with it being now a different knockout stage with the way they've done it in the past. For my order, I have Morocco, Brazil, Scotland, and Haiti. Ready to move on to Group D?
Let's do it. All right, so Group D, we have USA. They qualified as the host. Paraguay was a top CONMEBOL finisher. They are ranked 40th in the FIFA rankings. USA is ranked 16th. Australia finished as a top AFC finisher. They are ranked 27th in the FIFA rankings. And then Turkey qualified through the UEFA playoff, and they are ranked 22nd in the FIFA rankings. I think this group is not the easiest thing in the world for the U.S. I do think Paraguay is going to be a win. We've beaten them recently. I think that we can beat them. Australia, they're really up and down. Their qualifying is weird too, because they qualify through the Asian circuit, whereas like New Zealand, who's right next to them, qualifies through the Oceania, so that's kind of strange. But anyway, I don't think Australia is going to be that good. I think they're fine, but they're not great. I'm not too worried about them. I think the biggest issue for the U.S. is going to be Turkey. Similar to what I was saying about Scotland, if we want to get first in our group, we need to be relentless against Paraguay and Australia, not give up goals, and we need to score several. Because I think Turkey is going to score several against Paraguay and Australia as well. And I think Turkey might be the biggest threat to the U.S., or is the biggest threat to the U.S. in this group. I think they're young, they're good. Like I said, they had a very difficult qualifying group to where, they didn't advance out of it, but they looked fantastic in not advancing into the playoffs. I'm worried about them. I think they're going to be a solid team. I do have it as USA and Turkey tied on points. The goal difference is going to be the biggest thing there. And then Paraguay and Australia are both eliminated.
Okay, gotcha. And then what do you think it would take for this USA team to not only get out of this, obviously, group and be a top finisher here, but what do you think it's going to take for them to make a deep run in the World Cup?
Luck. I look at kind of the way my bracket is. The USA would play Canada in my situation, and then they'd probably play Belgium next. I don't know if we're beating Belgium. And then on top of that, we say we advance on against Belgium, then we'd have to beat Spain. I don't think we're beating Spain. Say somehow we do that, then we'd have to beat France. No shot we're beating France. So it is on the side of the bracket that no side of these brackets is easy. We're not there yet, to be honest with you. I think we can do well. I think it being on home soil maybe that would help us propel us against Belgium, get us into the quarters. Man, it's going to be tough, though. I don't see us – I see us making it to the knockout. I see us winning our first game, which would be awesome. I haven't seen the U.S. win a knockout game in my lifetime. Beyond that, I just don't – oh, man. It's going to take a lot for us to go on a deep run, which, I will admit. I'll admit that.
But just being a host country is special on its own. If they do make a run, you get out of obviously the group stage, get into the knockout round, which I think we're kind of expecting to. We're hoping to.
Better.
But in the event you get out of there, anything can happen. But like you said, it would be a tough road where you're probably facing Belgium at some point, down the line, potentially Spain, and then either France or Germany, probably. And I think that France and Germany game is going to be probably the best game of the knockout stage.
That's going to be a fun one.
That's going to be a good one. But we'll see. I think I have them winning this group, Group D. Then I have Australia, just to have kind of a hot take in there and throw someone in as an underdog pick, kind of. So I have Australia in second, Turkey in third, and Paraguay in fourth. We'll see, though, obviously, how things do shake out. Hopefully the U.S. does make a deep run. But like you said, I don't think they're there necessarily yet to be a contender to win the World Cup. But maybe in the next World Cup or 2 World Cups down the line, maybe things will be different. And
Crazier things have happened.
And soccer's really grown in this country, obviously. So keeps growing. You'll get more and more kids that play it, and then they'll grow up, be better players, and obviously be playing probably better competition when there's more people playing. And who knows, down the line, 8, 12 years down the line, maybe when our kids are playing soccer potentially. Maybe your son, obviously, down the line, maybe one day. Obviously, you're a big soccer fan, so obviously you'll probably have your son playing soccer, I'd imagine. So.
My wife lets it happen.
She
doesn't want it to happen, but they will be soccer players, I'll tell you that.
I love it. We'll see how that goes down the line for the U.S., how they do fare in the next few World Cups. But I think this one, like you said, just being a host country is very cool. Hopefully get out of that first round, the group stage, and then get to the knockout round. If you win a game in the knockout round, beat Canada, I think that would be pretty cool. But yeah, that's my thoughts. I get USA, Australia, Turkey, and Paraguay. What are your thoughts on that Turkey team? I know you said they're a little bit underrated. Obviously, they're ranked 22nd in the FIFA rankings. What do you think makes that team stand out to you?
I think it's just they're a very cohesive team. I think they're great. Looking back, they haven't lost a lot of games recently, I don't believe. I think they're just, when you look at them on paper, like just look at their qualifying route, you're like, oh, they didn't win their group, they had to go through the FIFA playoff. When you see, let's say, oh, it's because they had Spain, I think that makes it really difficult. The last game they lost was to Spain back on September 7th of 2025. And then if you go back all the way to June of 2025, they actually beat the U.S. They don't lose a lot of games. They win a ton. They can score goals. I just think they're a really solid team. They scare me a little bit. Turkey's always been good, so I think it's going to be a good game. But definitely a team that scares me a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Definitely have to see what happens. It'll be a good group to watch.
It will be.
Ready for Group E?
Let's go to Group E. We have Germany, who was a UEFA group winner. They're ranked 10th in the FIFA rankings. Curacao was a CONCACAF group winner. They are ranked 82nd in the FIFA rankings. Ivory Coast was a CAF group winner. They are 34th. And Ecuador was a top CONMEBOL finisher, and they are 24th in the FIFA rankings. I kind of said before that I think Germany is probably going to coast through this group. And my blog actually had a very hot take where I said that they get third. I don't know how much I believe that anymore. But I think this is an interesting group because I do think Ecuador is good. I do think the Ivory Coast is very good. And I think Germany is good, but they sometimes get in their own way. They haven't necessarily performed fantastic at the last few World Cups. They obviously have a great team. But I think it will be interesting to see. I think, they are also aging. I think they had some older guys that they rely on a little bit too heavily. I do think they're going to do well. I don't necessarily believe myself anymore about what I said in my blog, but I do think that they are probably, I think they're going to struggle. Maybe not 9. Maybe I shouldn't have had them at 9 points. Maybe they'll be at 7. They're going to be an interesting team to watch. Like I said, Germany, France should be a great game. In the knockouts, so that's the way everything goes. I do think that France will probably beat the crap out of them. But France is also just one of the best teams in the world. I don't know. This is going to be an interesting group. I'm kind of going back and forth in my head now about how I feel about it. So, but yeah, my final one on my bracket was Germany, Ivory Coast, Ecuador, and then Curacao in last.
Mm-hmm. I actually had the same thing. Germany, Cote d'Ivoire. Had to say it the French way.
I was going to say, you speak French.
Ecuador, and then in Curacao. Just had to because it's obviously written in the FIFA kind of brackets. They kind of put it all, in the way that the countries would refer to it as. So obviously we call it Ivory Coast here, but Cote d'Ivoire exactly is how they would say it. But yeah, I hear you on the the German team, you mentioned obviously in your blog as well, you kind of worried about their goalkeeping and how those guys have been playing as of late. And now obviously when you wrote that, it was June 2nd, so now 10 days later, I know you said you've been kind of back and forth on this group. I think the beauty of the World Cup is, like we already mentioned, is it's so hard to predict. So many teams, you never know how a team's going to, perform, how a player's going to perform. It is all, unexpected and unknown. But what do you think that biggest worry is about their goaltending? I know you mentioned obviously one of their guys is over 35 years old now, one of their goalies.
There are two of their goalies are over 35, Emmanuel Neuer and Oliver Baumann. Then Alexander Nubel, he's 29, but he gives up a lot of goals. I don't know, I've kind of mentioned it before, how like the African teams play, a different style of soccer that doesn't always gel well with the European teams. But I mean, with an aging goalie, two aging goalies, and one that can give up a lot of goals, playing against a team like that that's going to be shooting from everywhere is tough. Even Curacao might give them a little bit of, might be a little bit difficult. I believe that Ecuador is one of like the best defensive teams in their qualifying as well. So it's just teams that might be giving them a little bit more pressure than people think. And if they're, they finished second and they only gave up 5 goals. So that means they're going to be solid on defense. If Ecuador can get a goal, who knows what's going to happen after that. So I don't know. It's going to be a tough group for Germany. They're good at a lot of their other positions. They're really strong on their attack. They can score a lot of goals. But yeah, the goalkeeping is what I'm most concerned about with them, and just how, if they're not moving as quicker and solid teams, they might be struggling a bit.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And obviously that will play a big role in how they perform, is how they do come up, especially defensively. You mentioned obviously a team, and Ecuador is great defensively. You mentioned a German team that has really good defense, just the goaltenders are old. That's one of the most underrated games, I think, of the tournament, is Ecuador versus Germany. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that game, obviously heading into Group E play?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a high-pressing Germany team against an Ecuador team that's very comfortable sitting back and defending. Like I said, we saw that they only gave up 5 goals in the entire qualifying group. That included Argentina, Colombia, Uruguay, Brazil, Paraguay. Like, fantastic teams that scored 31 and 28 goals. They can defend like crazy, and I think they love to tie games as well. They had 8 draws in that qualifying stage as well. I think it's going to be a good game. I think Germany's going to really try to press, and the thing about that is, especially with some of these more defensive teams, they always got a guy that can break out, and if you kind of get caught sleeping against a good defensive team and they put one past you, you're going to be struggling to score the goals the rest of the game. That's my concern with Germany there.
And you made a great point. One mistake could be the determining factor in that type of game. Obviously it could be a high-scoring game. You said you wouldn't be shocked if it is, but also could be that defensive stalemate type of game where, it's a 2-0 game, 2-1 game, and that, one turnover makes a big difference. So we'll see how things go there. Anything else you want to mention about Group E before diving into Group F?
Don't think so.
All right, dive over to Group F.
All right, Group F. We have the Netherlands, who were a UEFA Group winner. They're 7th in the FIFA rankings. Japan qualified as an AFC Group winner. They're 18th. Sweden qualified through the UEFA playoff. They are 38th in the FIFA rankings. And Tunisia qualified as an AFC Group winner. They are 45th in the FIFA rankings. This group is really interesting to me. Netherlands are a very solid team. I have them on 7 points, level with Japan on 7 as well. They are a tall, physical team that can break you down. They're really good. Japan is probably the most disciplined team in the world. They don't give up goals. They can score in flashes, and they just pass the ball around so well. They're so good. Sweden, I have a little bit of beef with. They were awful in their World Cup qualifying group. I believe they only had 2 points. I'm going to confirm that. I believe they only had 2 points, but because they did well in the they only had 2 points. Didn't win a single game, lost 4, but because they did well in another tournament, they got the spot in the as a third place finisher over my Slovenian team, which I'm pretty upset about, but it is what it is. They then won all their games, so they played pretty well in the playoffs. So they're kind of an anomaly. They got some good guys, but they also kind of sucked at certain points. So I have no idea how well they're going to do. And then Tunisia that's going to be an interesting one. Obviously, they won their group. I'm going to find them really quick in here to see how well they did. They won their qualifying group pretty handily at a goal differential of plus 22 only drew one game, but granted they were playing teams like Namibia, Liberia, Malawi, just not great teams. So I don't really know how they're going to do. I think they've got some good guys. I believe they have some former Manchester United players on that team. They're led by Elish Skiri and Hannibal Mejbri, and I think they are going to be fine. They didn't do great in the AFCON tournament. They might get a win here. I had them tying Tunisia or Sweden actually, but I think the two standouts in this group are Netherlands and Japan, and I think they're going to advance comfortably.
Absolutely. And when you look at this pool, I keep saying pool, but I know what they call groups.
That's right. No, that's all right.
But when you look at this group here, I know you mentioned obviously in your blog post that this might be the most unpredictable group to kind of predict, because you obviously get a team like Sweden, it's a complete roll of the dice if they play like they did in the UEFA playoff, which UEFA, I was calling it UEFA. So you can tell my soccer knowledge is not there. But hey,
okay.
I'm not trying to fool anybody.
I don't want to correct you in the moment.
I was gonna say I'm not talking big game here like I know it all. But in the UEFA playoff, you said they kind of won the games that mattered most, and that obviously some teams just walk in, some teams just find ways to win. Look at the Knicks, like they find ways to win when they have to.
Yep.
I know it's a different sport here now, but just trying to connect them here where the Knicks find themselves in games and then close when they find a way to win. It seems like in the UEFA playoff as well, Sweden just did the same thing, beating a Polish team, right? It looked like was that in the UEFA playoff, right?
It was, yeah. And another thing, they couldn't score goals to save their lives in the UEFA qualifying group. They scored 4 across all their games, and then they scored 6 in the 2 games in the qualifying against Ukraine and Poland. It really is just however you show up. And, obviously maybe they took it a little bit easier because they knew they were going to be qualifying for the next round out of their way. But you win the games that matter most to you. Granted, they haven't won since then. So, who knows? But, yeah, they're going to be an interesting one to watch.
And you got Netherlands, Japan, Sweden, and then Tunisia, right?
Yep.
And then 7 points each for the Netherlands, Japan.
Yeah, and I don't see either Tunisia or Sweden advancing.
Yep, same with me. I got actually basically the same. I just flipped Japan and the Netherlands. I got Japan, then the Netherlands, then Sweden, then Tunisia. So I think I may have Sweden advancing just as a third-place finisher, but
you never know.
We'll see. But a roll of the dice there. I think I had to get them in. I think I remember reading in your blog post, this one was recent. This one was in the last week, 8 days ago. I remember reading you saying they're like a wild card team. I was like, what? All right, roll the dice. I'm going to have them in my bracket as a third-place finisher making it in. So that's Group F, and now ready for Group G?
Group G. We have Belgium. They qualified as a UEFA group winner. They are 9th in the FIFA rankings. Egypt was a CAF group winner. They're 29th. Iran was an AFC group winner. They're 21st. And New Zealand, this is kind of fun. They won as the Oceania playoff winner. They're 85th in the FIFA rankings. They're the very first, with the expansion of the World Cup, they're the very first Oceania team to ever auto-qualify for the World Cup. Never happened before just because they always had to go through the FIFA playoffs. So that's pretty exciting no matter what. Good for New Zealand. That's fun. This group, I think... Oh, man, I have Egypt on 0 points, which is sad because I think Mohamed Salah is really good, but I just don't know. Man, I just don't know how good they're going to do. They haven't advanced from the group stage since 1934. Made to the semifinals of the AFCON tournament, and they got 4th place, which was a loss to Nigeria and losing to Senegal in the semis. I don't know how good. I don't think they're going to be that good. New Zealand, I think, could beat them. I think New Zealand can score goals. Granted, the Oceania route is fairly easy, and they're one of the better teams. But they also scored 29 goals in all their games and only gave up 1, which is pretty solid. They can score goals, and that's one of the biggest things too. If teams aren't scoring heading into qualifying, it's a little bit interesting. But Belgium and Iran, I think, are the biggest ones. Belgium's good. Relating this back to the people who can understand March Madness a little bit more, they're Gonzaga. Everyone always thinks they're going to be good, and then they always fall off, and I just don't trust them. They're fine, but I don't think they're great. So I don't know. We'll see. I never trust them on the long run. And then Iran, they are actually an extremely solid team. They are led by Mehdi Taremi. He can score goals in a flash as well. He's really solid. The one thing that I am concerned about Iran is nothing that's the player's fault, and that's the political tensions between the U.S. and Iran right now. They've been struggling getting some of their coaches into the U.S. with the visas. If they turn that tension and pressure, because there's not much pressure, if they turn that tension and just what's happening to them and to their country, into fuel for them. I think they could end up, I have them in second on 6 points. I think they could end up winning the whole group and making a deep run. I think they are a good team. If they win the group, they might be playing the U.S. in the round of 16. That'd be something. But yeah, no, the players they all showed up in Mexico because the U.S. wasn't allowing them in, wearing the pin to the 168 kids that were killed in that school bombing. And it shows that their hearts are with their country and they're ready to stand up for it. So I think they are a scary team because they're good and because of all the pressure that they have on them. So.
And they made the World Cup. You made a note on your blog 4 straight times. So
yeah,
they're no stranger
team.
to it.
Yeah.
They're no stranger to the World Cups. They won't be a team that's just stepping in for the first time at Curacao. They might feel a little bit overwhelmed because it's their first time ever making it as a country. And then
they've been here before.
You got Iran, who's been here now 4 straight. So they've been there, obviously. And like you said, they do have a team that could be overlooked a little bit, but at the same time probably should not be. And like you said, the way this tournament goes too, sometimes those teams that are more veteran teams that have been there before, that can obviously play a role. And when you look at that team for Egypt, obviously they have Mo Salah. That's, if I had to name as many soccer players as I could, probably wouldn't name too many. Mo Salah would be one of them. I know he played for Liverpool, obviously, and one of my siblings is a Liverpool fan. So Mo Salah, terrific player. So I actually have Egypt making it out as the second team here in the group. What would it take for Egypt to make a run here in this group?
I think Salah would probably have to find his form again. He's had a bit of a falling out with Liverpool this year where he has not really been playing. So I think that could hamper them a little bit. He's obviously their main striker, and a lot of their game goes through him. And if he is not, able to kind of keep up with it, I do think that they might struggle a little bit. Let's see. Looking at their last few results, they just lost to Brazil, which isn't necessarily a bad result. Tied Spain, which is always a big one. Beat Saudi Arabia, who's another World Cup team. So I don't know. I think, I think they're going to do all right. I don't know. I think everything needs to come together. I don't think they're beating Iran. I don't think they're beating Belgium. And I gave the nod to New Zealand there just because they can score a ton of goals, but I think that one's going to be their only real shot at picking up some points.
Mm-hmm. And your breakdown you had in this region here was, or I should say group, Belgium, Iran, then New Zealand, then Egypt. So Egypt in fourth. For me, I have Belgium, Egypt, which, like I said, Mo Salah, I had to put in, obviously, just because I obviously did see him play a decent amount for Liverpool. My sister had the games on over the years. Iran in third, and then New Zealand in fourth. Ready for Group H?
Group H. We have Spain, who qualified as the UEFA Group winner. They are ranked second in the FIFA rankings. We have Cabo Verde. They were a CAF winner. They are 67th. Saudi Arabia was an AFC group winner. They are 61st. And then Uruguay was a top CONMEBOL finisher, and they're 16th in the FIFA rankings. To me, this group is very much, I think it's Spain at the top. And then I have Spain, then Uruguay, Saudi Arabia, then Cabo Verde. At the bottom, I think Saudi Arabia and Uruguay could potentially be trading spots. I think this is a big moment for Saudi Arabia. This is one of my things that I kind of forgot when I was making this. Spain's obviously fantastic. Uruguay's all right. They're good. But the thing about Saudi Arabia is that like 10 years ago, they weren't necessarily viewed as a soccer powerhouse. But now they're bringing more and more stars into their domestic league, like Cristiano Ronaldo, like Karim Benzema, like all these guys, because there's so much money flowing into the Saudi Arabian sport. And on top of this, they're also hosting the 2034 World Cup. So they're kind of in the shadows of that. And most of their guys play in the domestic leagues, which meaning that, maybe they're not the greatest players in the world, but they're playing against the greatest players in the world every single day in training. And iron sharpens iron. And I do think that they might be shocking some people because of just who they go up against every single day in training. So they're an interesting team. I think they're a toss-up. Spain wins handily, but I have Uruguay advancing and then Saudi Arabia qualifying as well. But I do think that Uruguay and Saudi Arabia could be a toss-up.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, obviously bringing in that top-tier talent into their league, it's all going to make the rest of the guys there stronger and better.
Yep.
Now when those guys do play in this World Cup, they've already faced, some top-tier talent already, so they're not going to be, the lights won't be too bright for them in that regard.
They know what they're up against.
It won't be like Jared Allen saying the lights are too bright in that case. For a lot of these teams, too, a lot of these countries, they have a lot of guys that play all over the world in different leagues, so the lights won't be too bright for many of them because a lot of them do compete in, for example, the Premier League. So they already do play top-tier talent. In this group, I have Spain, Uruguay, Cabo Verde, I have in third.
Okay.
The reason I want to have a hot take in here, and I know you obviously mentioned as well, like in your blog, you mentioned that they weren't an easy draw. They weren't given an easy draw, obviously, in this, but they're a team that did have some shootouts against Iran and Egypt, and they've only lost 3 games since the beginning of 2025. So I did read that, and I was like, you know what? When I was making this earlier today, I was like, you know what? I saw that. I was like, you know what? I'm going to have them be a team that makes it as a third place. Well, they're going to be third place. I have them making it as a third place finisher, but I have them as third in this group, which I think is really cool. The second smallest country to ever qualify, which makes it obviously a much better storyline as well. Being not only a first World Cup, but how small of a country they are, it makes it that much more special. Hoping they make a run, I think that'd be cool. But I only have 2 countries making it into the next round from this. I have Spain and Uruguay. As for Saudi Arabia, like you mentioned, that's only going to make those guys better when you're playing against top-tier talent. So would not be shocked if they make a run. I agree with you. People might be overlooking them.
Awesome. Going on to Group I, we have France. They were a UEFA Group winner. They are first in the FIFA rankings. We have Senegal. They are 15th in the FIFA rankings. They were a CAF Group winner. Iraq qualified through the FIFA playoff. They're 56th. And then Norway was another UEFA Group winner. They were ranked 31st in the FIFA rankings. Kind of like I mentioned before, this I think might be the group of death. France, obviously, one of, if not the best team in the world. They're super strong. Senegal is one of the best teams in Africa. I think they're just such a good team, and I think they're ready to kind of make up for some of the stuff that went on in the last AFCON tournament with them winning and then again stripped, and that's a whole thing. Norway, like I mentioned before, they went 8-0 in their qualifying group, and they had a goal differential of plus 32. That's absolutely insane. And then Iraq, I think, might be on the outside looking in here. They qualified through the FIFA playoff, which is great. Don't know how well they're going to do. I think it really is the 3 big dogs in this group. I have France on winning all 3 games, but I think it's going to be a close 3. Norway in second, Senegal in third, Iraq in fourth. I think what's going to potentially shock people, I have Norway as my dark horse here. I think if they get hot and they start scoring, you can't stop them. Kind of like the Spurs in the first quarter. They just kept on hitting their shots. And
in Game 4, yeah.
In Game 4, it just kept on hitting the shots. And that's if you give Erling Haaland and some of the other guys on Norway just a little bit of space, you are going to get beat. Also, they take really cool team photos, so that also kind of helped out. If you check out the blog, you'll see the cool Norse team photo that they took, which is fun. But yeah, France, Norway, Senegal, Iraq.
That's a cool team photo. I might have to change my predictions now after that. I don't know. As I said, I didn't get to read the last few of your blog posts over the last probably 4 or 5 days, whatever it's been. Did I read this one? No, the last 3 days. I've missed a lot. I told you that.
That's right. I've been churning them out. You've been busy with
I've had a lot of pods
Scary.
recently. Yeah, Pat Scary was on yesterday, and obviously
Coworker.
Aiden and James Daly as well. So haven't really gotten to read all of these, but I'm looking at, which I will read these today, looking at what you wrote here. You do mention, obviously, it is a very tough group to predict. Mm-hmm. And that Norway team you mentioned has won 8 in a row, is it?
They've won, let me double check. They won a lot of games in a row.
Which, I mean, if they're that hot heading into the tournament, you're taking, obviously, some team pictures like that where you're all kind of dressed up in, like, armor and stuff. It just shows there's a nice bond on that team. The chemistry's strong with those guys. And they're winning some games, too. So
They have only lost 1 in the last very long time.
Since November 2024.
Yep, since November 2024. They've only lost once to the Netherlands. That's a 2-1 game.
Got some ties in there, but still
tied Morocco, beat Sweden. Yeah, they're good.
It won't be, they would not be an easy out. Maybe I got to change this, but in the next round, in the knockout stage, I'd have them playing England, and obviously that would not be an easy matchup since I have them as a third place finisher. So maybe I flip that and have them as a second place here, just for the sake of it. I don't know how to change my order here, but I got, one second, I got France. I'll go Norway, Senegal, Iraq. That'll be my 1 through 4 there.
Okay.
And I'll have Senegal getting in as a third place finisher. Not sure that'll change my bracket, but the FIFA website will update that for me. So we'll be all set. But ready for Group J?
Group J, we have current champions Argentina. They qualified as the CONMEBOL group winner. They're third. They're between third and first in the FIFA rankings. It changes a lot. Algeria was a CAF group winner. They're 28th. Austria was a UEFA group winner. They are 24th. And then Jordan was an AFC group winner. They are 63rd. Kind of like some of the other groups, this is top heavy. Argentina, obviously with Messi, I think they're just going to coast through this group. I don't see Algeria or Jordan really giving them much of a struggle. I do think Austria might have some, it's their first it's their first World Cup in a very long time. And yeah, for the first time this century. And they've always done well in the Euro tournaments. They have some really good guys, like David Alaba, Konrad Laimer, and Marcel Sabitzer. I think they're good. Will the excitement of making it back be a little bit too high? Who knows? I think that Austria is going to do well. I just don't see Algeria and Jordan really being able to do too much. I have Argentina, Austria, Algeria, Jordan, with Argentina and Austria the only teams advancing out of this group.
And I want to ask a question about Messi. Obviously, the last World Cup, 2022, there was a big question mark about him coming back. How shocked were you now with him playing the last couple of years and now being back? How shocked were you that wasn't his last World Cup?
I'm not super shocked. I don't know. I think I kind of saw it coming like 3 years ago when there wasn't really much talk about him not playing. So I'm not too surprised. What I'll be most curious about, because I have Argentina as my potential letdown team. The thing that they did back in 2022 was you could tell the entire team was playing and winning for Messi. And now that they've already gotten their World Cup, I will be curious to see. It's still a strong group of guys, but is that drive going to be the same of winning for Messi? I don't know. I think it's going to be really interesting to see. So I don't know. I'm excited to see Argentina play. I think they're good. They're obviously a fantastic team, but I am not necessarily convinced that I don't think they're going to win the whole thing again this year. They will not repeat, in my opinion.
And what makes this team different than the team that you had, obviously, that won 4 years ago?
There's not a whole ton that's different. I think it's just the fact that Messi already has his World Cup is the biggest difference. Whereas last time out, they were looking to win it for him, and now that he's already got it, I could see Portugal which we'll talk about next, them using a similar blueprint and trying to get him his World Cup.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you're right. I think they were hungry just to get him one last chance at a World Cup then, and then obviously he is back. So it ended up not being his last, but at the time there was a heavy question about whether or not he was going to retire sometime soon.
Yep.
Obviously didn't. He kept playing, but that's obviously why they were hungry, I think, to get a World Cup was for potentially his last run. And he obviously is a soccer legend and a legend
Greatest
in the sports world.
Yep.
Yeah, just a legend in general in the sports world, regardless of the sport. So getting him his World Cup is obviously special. You do look at one of the games I want to mention is an underrated game. You have Argentina versus Austria. What makes that game something you're looking forward to watching?
Yeah, I think Austria is just a really solid team. They're cohesive. They play they're very similar to Germany in their style of soccer that they play. So I think that is going to be something to watch out for. And if Argentina is, if they're a little bit battered, I don't remember when they play them. But if they're a little bit battered and they're not too sure, they're, like I said, they're not really playing for Messi anymore. They're more just playing for themselves in the country. I do think that maybe they could struggle a little bit. So I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at with that one. I do see Argentina winning that one, but I could see Austria, potentially playing a little bit of spoiler. I'm going to find out right now when they play them. But I could see Austria making a difference in that game. Mm-hmm. They play them second. So, we'll see what happens in that one. That'll be an interesting game.
Absolutely. And I'll give my breakdown now. So I got Argentina in first here in Group J, then Austria, then Algeria, then Jordan. So that's nice. My breakdown there. Yeah.
There you go. All right, Group K, we have Portugal qualified as the UEFA Group winner. They are fifth in the FIFA rankings. We have the Democratic Republic of the Congo. They were a FIFA playoff winner. They are 46th. We have Uzbekistan. They were a top AFC group finisher. They are 50th in the FIFA rankings. And Colombia, who was a CONMEBOL group finisher, top one, and they are ranked 13th. Talked a little bit about it. I think Portugal is going to be on top here. I think they're going to be playing for Ronaldo, getting him the one trophy that he hasn't gotten yet, that World Cup. Actually, if things go correctly and they win all their games, they do well, Argentina and Portugal could meet in the quarters, which would be that'd be a fun game. Colombia, I think, is good. They did well in their CONMEBOL. They tied for third along with four other teams, but they got the bump for third. They scored 28 goals, which is awesome. They gave up 18, so that is the most of any qualified team. So that's a little bit concerning for them. Who knows necessarily what their defense needs a little bit of shoring up. They can score goals. We know that. Second most goals scored and most goals allowed by any qualifying team. That'll be interesting. One of the things that I love about the expanded World Cup, you look at the Democratic Republic of the Congo, you're like, how good are they possibly going to be? You start looking at their squad, they're really good. They have guys that play all over the Premier League. They're led by Yoan Wissa, who is a striker for Newcastle who can score a ton of goals. And then Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Axel Tuanzebe, two guys who used to play for Manchester United, moved on to other places, but they have a good team. They beat Jamaica, who's a solid squad, in the FIFA playoff, or in the FIFA playoff, sorry. I could see them getting a win and a draw in this group. I think they are going to be one that to watch out for because I think they're better than people realize.
And you see Portugal potentially being what Argentina was for a last run for Messi. Now it's potentially the last run for Ronaldo.
Yep.
Probably the last run. Is it presumable?
I would assume it's the last one. I would be shocked if he came back.
But could be that same magic, though. Just one last run, try to get him a win. And obviously, the Democratic Republic of Congo getting in is really cool. Like you said, they did get in as a FIFA playoff winner, so they did have to win some games to obviously make a run here. This is their first ever World Cup, right?
Yes, it is.
So that's special on its own. That brings a lot of energy. Uzbekistan, this is their first World Cup as well. So this is a pretty cool group here. A lot of teams that are just getting in for the first time. And then you also have Colombia getting in after missing out back in 2022, which you noted, obviously, on your blog. The best game here you mentioned is Portugal versus Colombia, two of the best teams you said on paper would meet here in the group stage. So that game is one you got circled, ready to go, and ready to watch, I'm sure.
That'd be fun. That'd be a fun one.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in your order here, you had Portugal, Colombia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and then Uzbekistan, right?
Yep.
And then for mine, I have Portugal, Colombia, Congo, Uzbekistan. So actually, same 1 through 4.
Look at that. Yeah, Uzbekistan's their first one. They got one guy, I'm going to butcher his name, let me get back over to it, mainly one guy who does not play in the Uzbekistani domestic league. That is Abdudakir Kusanov, I think is how you pronounce it. He plays for Manchester City, which is awesome, but most of the rest of their team plays for the Uzbekistani domestic league, and I think that's not going to be a winning formula in this group, unfortunately for them.
It's a tough group when you look at you got Portugal and Colombia there, so
never gonna
not
be
easy draw. Not easy draw there for them. Ready for Group L?
Yeah, final group. We have England, who qualifies as a UEFA group winner. They are 4th in the FIFA rankings. Croatia, another UEFA group winner. They are 11th. Ghana was a CAF group winner. They're 73rd. And then Panama was a CONCACAF group winner. They are 34th in the FIFA rankings. I think this one's going to be England and Croatia. I just see that's the first game of the group two, which will be fun. I just think that these two teams are the best by a good distance. Ghana is usually decent at the World Cup, but they're just not good right at the moment. I would see them doing too well. Panama, I think, is going to threaten. I think they'll beat Ghana but lose the other two games, and I just think England and Croatia are just so much better. The one thing I am concerned about with Croatia, though, is they're at the end of their golden generation, where they've gotten second and third at the last two World Cups. It's been awesome to see. Luka Modric is old. Ivan Perisic is old. They've had some of the other guys kind of move on out. I am a little bit concerned about if their age starts to show how well they're going to do. I think they're going to do fine. I think they're going to do well. I don't know how far I have them advancing. Yeah, I think I have them winning one game in the knockout round before running into the juggernaut that is Spain. But they're a fun team. It'll be fun to watch. Luka Modric. It was more than likely his last World Cup because I believe he's 40. One of the greatest players to ever play the game. Great Croatian player. He has a great story. He grew up playing soccer in a refugee camp during the Croatian Civil War. Awesome guy, awesome player, awesome person. So it'll be fun to watch him and one last go around.
It's really cool. That's awesome. It'd be a cool story. Obviously,
Yeah,
if they
he's
were to
awesome.
make a run, it'd be cool. And as for England, what do you think makes this team that strong? What makes this team special? Which obviously they've had some really good teams in years past and have fallen short. For this England team, what do you think potentially could be the difference maker in this year's tournament for them?
I mean, they're stacked at like every single position. I'm going to tell you the exact. But they have Bukayo Saka is so good.
Harry Kane,
is he in it? I'd be shocked if he wasn't. Yeah, Harry Kane's in it playing for Bayern. He's awesome. Marcus Rashford, my guy, former Manchester United, he was on loan at Barcelona. He's awesome. Bukayo Saka on Arsenal. Ivan Toney's so good. Those are just their strikers. Jude Bellingham in the midfield for Real Madrid. He's awesome. Jordan Henderson's great. Kabi Manu, I love him so much. He's amazing. Declan Rice is great. Their defense is just, they are literally stacked at every single position. I am a little bit concerned about their goalkeeping. James Trafford, I don't know how good he'll do. If he even plays. Jordan Pickford has been their number one guy. I don't think Pickford is an interesting goalie. He's good, but he also gives up some dumb goals. Then I like Dean Henderson at Crystal Palace too, but if I had to guess, it'll probably be Jordan Pickford starting. England is like Duke, bringing it back to that. They always have the high expectations. They look great, and then they lose. I think that's probably going to be them again as well. They're good. They're always great. As I said in the blog, I believe, what did I say? Their phrase is like, football's coming home. That's what they like to sing. That's one of their chants. And as I said, it's not coming home yet again. I don't see them winning the whole thing. I see them doing well. I haven't made it into the semis, but that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you mentioned, Pickford is a guy that, and I've seen him play. Actually, I know he plays in the Premier League. What team is he?
Everton.
Everton. Yeah, I was gonna say I've seen him play, and he, like you said, he's experienced. He's been there, and obviously has had some really good saves. Then he'll have a couple plays here and there. Like, he should have been better. But at the end of the day, his experience I think helps here, especially when you're looking at this tournament too. Like you said, you have them at least going to the semis. So if they were to make it to the semis, obviously they're right there, right on the border of potentially making the finals and bringing it home. But you think they're obviously still not going to be able to do so this year. We'll see. So in your order, you've got England, Croatia, Panama, Ghana. All three of those top making it in besides Ghana. And then I actually have the exact same order.
Nice.
So England, Croatia, Panama, and then Ghana. So there's a breakdown of all of the groups there. And then do you want to just name your third place finishers? And then we can go on to breaking down the knockout stage.
Yep, my third place finishers going from like Group A to Group L. We have Czechia, Canada, Scotland, Ecuador, Saudi Arabia, Senegal, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Panama.
Okay, got you. Let me give you mine as well. So in my third place finishes, I have Senegal, Iran, which I don't know if this is all in order based on their groups. I don't think it is. I think it's based on the world's ranking from FIFA, so it'll be a little out of order. But I got Senegal, Iran, Turkey, Ecuador, Algeria, Sweden, Czechia, and Scotland as my 8 teams making it as third place teams to the knockout round. And really quick, what are your thoughts on, which I know you already mentioned it, the expansion from 32 teams to 48 teams. Now they have the new knockout tournament where the top 2 teams of each group advance to the knockout stage. And then this year, the third place finishers will have the top 8 will also advance to the knockout stage. What are your thoughts on expanding from 32 to 48 teams?
There's no need for it. I think it's kind of fun. It's fun that we get to see some of these smaller teams get in, but then I don't know. We get worse groups, in my opinion. I think it was fine at 32. I think it's been working for a long time. It's because of greed and they want more money. So that's where we're at. There's nothing I can do about it. It means more soccer, which is going to be fun. But I think 32 is the perfect number. But what can you do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely comes down to money. More teams get in, more advertising, more games to publicize online, more people buying merch and everything online. So more tickets, obviously, as well. People be buying.
And then
so it comes down to that.
On top of this as well, like when we look at next year or the next World Cup, it's hosted in Portugal, Spain, and Morocco. But on top of this, because it's like the centennial of the first World Cup, it's also going to be the first games played in Uruguay, Paraguay, and a couple other countries. So there's going to be like 7 auto-qualified teams, which is absolutely insane. So I think it helps out with that, but it's unnecessary, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. I hear you on that. I think it's just more teams, more money, like you said. And now, do you want to go into talking about the knockout stage? Give a breakdown of your bracket?
Let's do it. So starting, I guess, in the top left, we would have Germany and Scotland. I have Germany winning that one. France and Saudi Arabia, France winning that. Korea, Republic, and Bosnia. I have Bosnia and Herzegovina winning that game. Netherlands and Morocco. I do have Morocco winning that one. Colombia, Croatia. I have Croatia coming on top. Spain, Austria. Spain wins that. USA and Canada. USA wins. Belgium and Czechia. Belgium wins that. Else keep on going on this side. Then France and Germany. France wins. Bosnia and Herzegovina, Morocco. Morocco wins. Croatia, Spain. Spain wins. USA, Belgium. Belgium wins. Now we're into the quarters on that side. France, Morocco. France wins. Spain, Belgium. Spain wins. And then we have Spain, France semifinal with Spain winning that to advance to the World Cup finals. And then on the other side, we have Brazil and Japan. Brazil wins. Cote d'Ivoire and Norway. I think Norway wins that one. Mexico and Ecuador. Mexico wins. England and the DR Congo. England wins. Argentina and Uruguay. Argentina wins. Turkey and Iran. Iran wins. Switzerland and Senegal. I think Senegal upset Switzerland in that one. Then we have Portugal and Panama. Portugal wins. Brazil, Norway, and Brazil. Mexico, England. England wins. Argentina and Iran. I think Argentina wins. Senegal, Portugal. Portugal wins that one. And then the quarters, Brazil and England. I think England wins that one. And then Argentina and Portugal, the battle of the two GOATs, Messi and Ronaldo. I have Portugal winning that one. And then England, Portugal in the semis. Portugal wins for a World Cup final of Spain and Portugal, where I do believe Spain wins. Spain's my champion.
And what makes this Spain team different? I know we talked about them already a little bit, but what makes you think this is their year to potentially, come out on top?
They are just so good in every sense of the imagination. Their goal, they have guys that are just so. I'm going to go to the roster really quick because I can just tell you their anchor. One of their best guys, Lamine Yamal. I think he's 20. He is just so good. Luis de la Fuente is their head coach. He's a legendary head coach. David Raya is probably going to be in that. Him or Unai Simon. David Raya just won the league with Arsenal. Looking at some of their defenders, Marco Correa is awesome. Americ Laporte is great. Pedro Porro is pretty solid as well. Their midfielder and the strikers is where they really start to do well, though. Gavi in the midfield is absolutely insane. Zubamendi is so good. And then at forwards, Mikel Oyarzabal, he's an extremely solid forward. Lamine Yamal is one of the best players in the world. Danny Olmo is fantastic. Nico Williams is amazing. There's got guys up and down the board that are just so solid. I think Nico Williams is like 22. They're so good in every single position, and they're so deep, and they just don't lose games. And I think they're going to run through this tournament, and they're going to do really well.
Seem like they'll be a tough out.
I think they will be.
And when you look at your semifinals, you got France and Spain, England and Portugal, four powerhouses in soccer.
yeah.
Honestly, that would be a great semifinal matchup at each of those two sides. What do you think prevents that France team from getting it done? Which obviously they lost in the World Cup final last time, but what do you think hurts them again and prevents them from winning?
I don't know. I think if the lights just get a little bit too bright for them, if they, I think they don't have an easy slate. I think Saudi Arabia, it will be an easier game in the first round, but Germany is going to test them. Morocco is going to test them, and then I think they're going to come in a little bit more battered. I think they would want to be to play Spain, and I just think they might be a bit tired. It's also France has made it to the last two World Cup finals, and I think going for three straight is just really difficult. I don't think they're going to do it. I think they're going to lose early. Or not lose early, but I think they're going to lose in the semis and just not able to keep up the momentum.
Early to the final.
Yeah.
Which we'll obviously see how that goes. I'm going to break down now my bracket really quick, which, like I've already mentioned, don't know too much. So the loss is just based off of just kind of picking teams at this point. But sometimes those end up being the better brackets. So we'll see how a roll of the dice here works for me. But in my round of 32, I have, which we're starting now in the top left, I'm using FIFA's bracket, my bracket challenge type of thing, whatever they want to call it, FIFA's bracket challenge. So basically just breaking it down from that. But luckily it's all here in front of me, so it works out. So Germany, Turkey, I got Germany winning that. France and Sweden, I have France winning there. Mexico and Canada, I have Mexico winning. Then we have Japan and Brazil, I have Japan winning. I guess it's probably a surprise win there maybe. But Colombia, Croatia, I have Colombia winning. Spain and Austria, I have Spain winning. The USA and Algeria, I have the USA winning. Belgium and Czechia, I have Belgium winning. Morocco and the Netherlands, I have Morocco winning. That's Morocco, right? I think, yeah, Morocco, that's what I thought. Cote d'Ivoire and Norway, I have Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire winning here. I guess that'd probably be an upset win in some regards, but probably an upset win if they were to get to that next round.
But
so it's fine. See how things go. Then I have Korea and Scotland. I have Korea winning. England and Senegal. I have England winning. Argentina and Uruguay. I got Argentina winning. Austria and Egypt. I have Australia winning. Not Austria. Australia and Egypt. I have Australia winning. Switzerland, Iran, I have Iran winning. Portugal and Ecuador, I have Portugal winning. So it's a little bit out of order. I didn't do it kind of the two regions way. I just kind of did it all in order. Now in the round of 16, I have France over Germany. I have Mexico over Japan. I have Spain over Colombia. I have Belgium over the U.S. I got Morocco over the Ivory Coast. I have England over Korea. I have Argentina over Australia. And then I have Portugal over Iran. Now in the quarterfinals, I have France over Mexico. I have Spain over Belgium. I have England over Morocco. And I have Portugal over Argentina. Semifinals, we have France over Spain, which, like we already noted, that would be a really good game if that ends up being a semifinal matchup. And then I have Portugal over England. And then in the final, I'm going to roll with France over Portugal. Hopefully this year they get it done. I visited France before. I've been to Spain. So those are two of the final 4 teams here in this bracket here for me. And then Portugal is a country I'm going to visit soon. So it'd be cool to have all 3 of these 4 teams in here in the semifinals. But I have France getting it right, hopefully this year in winning. We'll see. As I said, I don't know too much about soccer, so some of these predictions could be way off. But at the end of the day, that's the beauty of the tournament. No one knows how things are going to pan out. So we'll see how things play out. But
when do you go to Portugal again?
In July. So
when
coming
in July?
Up, it'll be first week of July, roughly. So
you might be there. You're going to be there for some World Cup games potentially.
Potentially, if they make a deep run, right?
That's going to be fun.
Because one of the finals, you mentioned July 17th. I'll be home by then. But
let's see.
July 19th is the final.
Okay, yeah. Scroll down a little bit for me. July 15th. You might be there for some of the knockout games.
Yeah,
for some of the knockout games.
Some of these knockout games, I'll be there.
That's
for
gonna be fun.
Round of 16 and quarterfinals. So it'll be really cool. I'm excited to obviously to have potentially all 3 of these teams be in the finals here, and then England's a place I've always wanted to go. So they'd be one of the. I have England losing earlier, don't I? Let me see. Yeah, I have England losing to Portugal, but that's a country I've always wanted to visit as well. So we'll see how things go. But I do have one last question here for you about the World Cup. Obviously, you do have Spain coming out on top over Portugal. What do you think it would take for Portugal to overcome Spain in that potential matchup? Because Spain is really good. You already know, obviously, they have a deep roster, maybe the deepest roster in the tournament. What would it take for Portugal to potentially beat them in this tournament?
I think it would take just everybody playing for Ronaldo and for the memory of Diogo Jota, and them just being able to, just put it all together at the right time. I will say Portugal in finals and in knockout rounds, they do well. They have won a few of those where they haven't been expected to win in the past. So if they get there, I wouldn't be shocked to see Portugal win. I do think Spain will win, but Portugal does have the ability. They are able to win those big games when it counts. So
We'll have to see how it goes. But yeah, Portugal, obviously, they could get it right for Ronaldo's potential last run, which would be really cool if they were to, go out on top for him. I do want to mention there are 3 games I circled in your bracket that I think are the best matchups in the knockout stage. You have Germany and France, obviously, in the round of 16. You have Argentina and Portugal in the quarterfinals. That would be awesome, Messi versus Ronaldo. Then the finals, Spain and Portugal. That's a great game. Both these semifinals matchups are awesome as well. It'll be special, though, I think. As I said, I do have France hopefully getting it right, since I do love France, went there and really enjoyed my time there. Same thing with Spain, and hopefully they do get it right. But we'll see how it goes. I did have a question for you about the Timberwolves, which I'll ask you really quick before we close the episode, and then if you have anything to add up with the World Cup as well, you'll be able to do so. What are your thoughts on the Timberwolves' new uniforms? I know you're a big Timberwolves guy, so I want to get your thoughts on that.
I love them. I thought our last jerseys were so ugly. I thought they were terrible. So the fact that we rebranded, it's modern mixed with, our old style colors and our older jerseys. I think they look fantastic. The new courts are nice. I think we kind of hit it out of the park with it. I'm very excited to buy a few jerseys. So I'll do that when I'm back home in a few weeks. But it's going to be fun. I like them a lot. I'm excited to win an NBA championship in those jerseys.
With Anthony Edwards.
Edwards.
Could use it. Anything else you want to add in about the World Cup before we close?
It's going to be a fun time. It's over in, March Madness. It's over in the blink of an eye. Definitely watch as many of the games as you can. It's going to be fun. It's a great introduction into soccer. It gets you just fully immersed into the global game. It's so fun. Absolutely watch it if you can. It's going to be a good time.
It's a great time for sports. The World Cup, NBA Finals, Stanley Cup Finals, NBA Draft coming up. Baseball, obviously, is about midway through the season now, so it's a beautiful time for sports. It is.
Yes,
so,
it is.
For everybody listening, thank you so much for taking the time. And, Ben, thank you so much for your time coming on today, all your excellent insight into the game of soccer, which we talked about doing this episode like a month ago, and I remember telling you, hey, I don't know much about soccer. I'm not going to pretend I do. I'm just going to kind of let you run the show, and then I'll ask some questions and give some thoughts here and there, just have some predictions. But thank you so much for your insight and your time today, Ben, and wishing you all the best of that game on Saturday. You got Haiti and Scotland going at it at Boston Stadium. Should be a lot of fun. But thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. It's always a blast coming on here.
Have you on again soon. Maybe midway through, we'll have you come on and give some predictions.
Sounds
on
good to me.
Potential the knockout stage maybe at that point. But thank you so much, Ben. Much appreciated. And thank you guys for listening. Much appreciated as always. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you.